Will everyone please join me in Gassho and repeat the Nembutsu with me. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namandats, namandats, namandats. Good morning, everyone. Well, isn't it nice? The clouds cleared and the sun is shining through. You know, it was kind of rainy this morning, but the clouds parted and we're having a nice Sunday service. You'll all have to forgive me, please. I'm a little exhausted because as you all know, just yesterday I recently came back from California from teaching a Tokudo training prep seminar. As one of the teachers for the Tokudo training prep seminars, and it was a whole lot of work because we have a new 10 candidates. 10 candidates, can you believe that? From the BCA who are training to become ready to become ordained as Buddhist priests in the United States. So that's always a wonderful thing. We always could use more priests here in the United States. So for today's Dharma talk, we're going to talk once again about the treasure of the teachings, right? But more importantly, the transmission of the teachings, how these teachings were transmitted. We chant Jusei-ge, Sanbutsu-ge, Amida-kyo for most of our services, yes? And probably some of you, and not to call anyone out, but I noticed Kenzo didn't need a book when he was chanting Jusei-ge. So Kenzo, does this mean that you have Jusei-ge memorized? Sort of, okay, which probably means that you can recite it along with everyone else without using a book. That's wonderful. You have Jusei-ge memorized. How many people here have Jusei-ge, the chant we just said? How many of you have that memorized? Okay, all right, another person. Okay, that's totally fine, right? What you know, some of you may almost probably get like tired of Jusei-ge or Sanbutsu-ge, or go, I want to do something different. And for those of you who feel that way, do not worry, because for the adult service, we are going to be chanting Shoshin-ge, which we don't chant all that often here at the temple. So you're in for a treat, okay? So, but we chant this all the time, right? And why is this? Because we as people need repetition. We as people need routine. We as people need to have things repeated to us again and again, right? And sometimes we get annoyed, right? Sometimes we get irritated, especially for us younger folks, right? I shouldn't put myself in that category, I'm sorry. I'm 34 years old, and I'm certain there's a group of people here at the temple will say to me like, oh, you're young. But then there's another group of people at the temple will probably say, you're so old, right? So I'm kind of in that weird middle area. But for younger folks, sometimes it's probably easy to get irritated with your parents, right? I know I got irritated with my father all the time. Every single time he told me, take out the garbage, 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 right? Garbage, garbage, take out the garbage. And so every time I go back home, because I visited my parents back at home, I help take out the garbage, because I'm afraid my father will nag me if I don't. But again, we as people need repetition. We constantly need repetition because our minds, especially now with technology the way that it is, our attention spans have just gone down. I myself is included in this, right? I'm always on my phone. I can instantly go to the next thing. I don't have to go to the library necessarily to get information. Now, of course, if I want to read a very particular book, I'll have to go to the library. But, I need repetition. And this is what chanting the sutras does for us. It gives us this repetition. And it, once again, helps us to appreciate the teachings that were transmitted to us by Shakyamuni Buddha. Now, for those of you who don't know, one of Shakyamuni Buddha's main disciples, one of his main students, his name was Ananda. Dharma school students, I want you to say that name with me, okay? Ananda. One, two, three. Ananda. Very good. Who was Ananda? Ananda was the Buddha's cousin or nephew / nephew. He was one of those, but we're not entirely sure. But he was his cousin / nephew, and it is said in legend that he was one of the last people to reach full enlightenment because he had to sort of stay behind and tell people exactly what the Buddha said. So you'll notice when we chant sutras like Amida Kyo, it starts with, thus have I heard. Thus have I heard, right? Thus have I heard. That is Ananda saying this. Legend says Ananda is saying that. And Ananda was so impressive, he was able to memorize every single one of the Buddha's teachings, every single one of the Buddha's sermons. He was able to recite it from memory. So for us, right, some of us, actually, there are people who have that ability to just listen to one thing or see one thing once, and they're able to copy it down verbatim, right? They're able to copy it down verbatim. They're able to, memorize something. There's actually this, I can't remember his name, but there's this artist who, they take him on a helicopter ride around this huge city, and just from one helicopter ride around the city, he's able to sit in a chair and make an entire copy of everything that he saw. Like the canvas is kind of curved, so it kind of fits with that. But of course, when it comes to myself, right, just myself, I need to have things repeated to me all the time. Like someone needs to tell me again and again. And I know for those of you who have worked with me with the board or with planning things, you're always like poking me with emails and saying, Sensei, did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? Right? Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot. I have to do it. Thank you for reminding me. Thank you for reminding me. Right? This is usually the thing that's happening with me. Right? I'm going, thank you for reminding me. But this is why the teachings were written down. This is why the teachings are constantly recited. This is why we say things again and again and again. And because we say things again and again and again, we are able to memorize them. So, Dharma school students, what are the three treasures? The, and, very good. See, now if you only heard that once, right? If you only heard that once, do you think you'd be able to memorize those three? Probably not. I know I wouldn't. But we say the three treasures almost every service, and we do it by saying Bandhana Tisarana, right? Buddham Saranam Gacchami, Dhammam Saranam Gacchami, Sangham Saranam Gacchami. This reminds us again and again and again, right? We as Buddhists take refuge in the three treasures, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And we repeat this every single Sunday service. And why do we repeat it? Because if we don't repeat it, we won't remember it. Some of you may say, oh, I'll remember that, that's easy, right? But other teachings, just as we say Namo Amida Butsu all the time, right? We say Namo Amida Butsu all the time. Namandats, Namandats. We do this so we can remember constantly infinite wisdom and compassion given to us. I take refuge in Amida Buddha. I take refuge in Amida Buddha. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namandats, Namandats. We repeat this because we as humans, we as people, need constant reminders of the infinite wisdom and compassion that is given to us. Because it's so easy to get caught up in our own selves. Probably many of you Dharma school students, including everyone in the audience here, probably have other things on your mind right now. What am I going to have for lunch today? Oh, did I study for this test that's going to happen like tomorrow? Tomorrow's Monday, school. Oh gosh, did I get this application in? Did I, get this letter of recommendation for on the deadline? All of these things are on our minds. Our minds constantly go in every which direction, which is all the more reason why we must have repetition, 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 repetition. And Buddhism, thankfully, is set up this way. We constantly, chant similar things again and again and again, but without these constant reminders, without this constant presence in our life, how will we remember the teachings, the wonderful teachings that have been given to us day after day after day? So I would like to thank you all once again for attending this service. Constant repetition, I think, is a very important part of our practice, right? And I think that with this in mind, right, we have many sects of Buddhism, right? As for all of you Dharma school students going off into college or into the world, you'll find that there are many schools of Buddhism, right? So when you go out, people will ask you, oh, well, what type of Buddhism are you? And you can say Jodo Shinshu, you can say Pure Land Buddhist. But then when people ask you, well, what's your practice? what's your practice, right? You can say, I say the Nembutsu. I repeat Namo Amida Butsu all the time. I say, I take refuge in the Buddha of infinite light and life all the time. There are Buddhists who sit in Zazen meditation, and that's a great practice that works for some people, but for me, my mind is never really settled. My mind is never really settled, which is why I must constantly say Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, constantly. It's a practice that works for me. It's a practice that works for all of us. For all of us, it is sitting in Zazen meditation can be very, very hard and kind of daunting. But for me personally, for all of us personally, I think saying Nembutsu constantly and with repetition works the best. So I would like to thank you all again for attending today's beautiful spring day service. And for once again, for my own clarification, Dharma school students, when I say Namo Amida Butsu, what am I saying? I take refuge in. I take refuge in. Say it one more time. Very good. See, repetition, 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 repetition. It works, and it's a wonderful practice for all of us. Please join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda, 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 namanda. Will you all please join me in Gassho? It is indeed the right exposition for which the Tathagata appeared in the world, the wondrous scripture, rare and most excellent, the conclusive and ultimate exposition of the one vehicle, the precious words disclosing perfect, instantaneous fulfillment, the sincere words praised by all the Buddhas throughout the 10 quarters, the true teaching in consummate readiness for the beings of this day. Let this be known. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namandats, 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 namandats. Good morning, everyone. Wow, it felt really good to chant Shoshin Nembutsu Ge with you all. And this is because in the past few days, I have been chanting Shoshin Nembutsu Ge twice a day. From Thursday until Saturday, we were chanting Shoshin Ge almost twice a day. And it's because for the priests of Jodo Shinchu Honganji Ha, or Nishi Honganji, our order, the chant that we just did, if you want to become a priest, you have to have this entire chant memorized from start to finish. And then you also have to memorize 2 versions of it. So the version we did today is called Sofu version, okay, the Zendo Dokumyo Bushoi, right? But in actuality, there's 2 versions that we have to memorize, and one's called Sofu, and the other is called Gyofu. And Gyofu is sung on special occasions, actually like today. And the Zendo part kind of goes like, Zendo Dokumyo Bushoi Josan Yogyaku Aku, just like that. So it's really melodic. It's kind of monotone from the beginning, but then once you get to the Zendo part, it gets really melodic. So you all probably have noticed that today you all notice today I'm kind of dressed up. I mean, people probably aren't really used to, they see me like in a fuho and the regular wagesa around my neck, and you see I'm kind of dressed up in my special attire. I have my chuke, which is this fan, Futawa Nenju. And then today we also chanted Shoshin Ge, right? What's going on? Why are we doing this? Well, for us adults, I would like us to memorize some important dates for every month. So this will be very easy to memorize. So because it's just numbers, okay? So first number is 14. 14, okay? Then the next number is 16. 14, 16. Then the next number is 23. 23. Then the last number is 27. 27. 14, 16, 23, 27. Okay, everyone with me. 14, 16, 23, 27. What's today's date? April 23rd, right? So it just so happened that we arrived on one of these special days on April 23rd. Every month at Nishihonganji, at our mother temple in Kyoto, Japan, every 23rd of the month, we chant Shoshin Nembutsuge Gyofu style in honor of our former head priest, our third Monshu, third head priest, Kakunyo Shonin. This was Shinran Shonin, our founder Shinran Shonin. This was his great-grandson, okay? His great-grandson. Now, we don't know too much about Shinran Shonin, our founder. We don't know officially too much about his life because, no real, when Shinran Shonin wrote, he didn't talk about himself too much. He would kind of talk about his feelings, of course, but he never wrote down a full biography of his life. So thanks to Kakunyo Shonin, our third Monshu, we have this book, which is now unfortunately out of print, so they don't sell it at the BCA bookstore anymore. But if you want to borrow it or if you want me to make copies, just feel free to ask me. But Kakunyo Shonin, Shinran Shonin's great-grandson, wrote this biography of our founder Shinran Shonin. So a lot of the legends, the myths around Shinran Shonin, we talk about every year, we know because of this book. We know because of Kakunyo Shonin's writings. But Kakunyo also did more than just write down Shinran Shonin's biography. Kakunyo also helped to establish Jodo Shinshu or Honganji as an official temple. Okay, it was under Kakunyo Shonin that we are able to officially call ourselves a sect or a school or an official temple. And there's actually a famous story of him putting up the sign at the Otani Honbyo, which is now what the columbarium is, but of that property there, and officially establishing our school as a school of Buddhism or as a school recognized in Japan. Kakunyo very much also standardized, sort of Shinran Shonin's teachings as well, studied them very carefully, and wrote in his biography as well about Shinran Shonin's writings. So we have a lot to thank Kakunyo Shonin for, and this is why every 23rd of the month we celebrate or we remember the life of Kakunyo Shonin. His writings provide us with the guidance and, of course, with an insight into Shinran Shonin's life. So again, that's every 23rd of the month. Now, I have to look at the calendar, but we all remember the numbers, right? 14, 16, 23, 27. So if there's another Sunday service that happens to fall on one of these days, for the adult service, we will chant Shoshin Nembutsuge, and I will explain why and who. That's as important dates to remember. But in the opening passage that I read today, this comes from the conclusion of the teaching chapter of Shinran Shonin's Kyogyo Shinsho. And once again, it explains as to why we love this teaching of Nembutsu or Amida Buddha's wisdom and compassion. Because it was expounded or it was shared with us by Shakyamuni Buddha all those years ago. And it states, even in that larger sutra, that this is the reason why Shakyamuni Buddha appeared in this world, right? Why he came to this world. What was he trying to say to all of us? He provided his followers, yes, with a concrete and very easy step-by-step program, in a sense, to achieve enlightenment as he had. But one of the greatest respects of Shakyamuni Buddha was that he was also forward-thinking, because Shakyamuni Buddha realized, I am confined in this human body. I am also limited by this human body as well as to how long I will live. So Shakyamuni Buddha was under no illusion that he was going to live forever, or that he would be able to come visit us here at the temple in person and and give out a sutra. So what did he have to do? He had to come up with another teaching that would stand the test of time, right? He would stand the test of time. And this is what the Nembutsu teaching is. And the Nembutsu teaching teaches us that we as ordinary beings, including myself, I know that I look pretty fancy, right? I look pretty good at whatever, right? But ultimately, underneath all of these beautiful robes, I am still just an ordinary being, just like you all are as well. I am still subject to the human limitations and human conditions that kind of give us all hang-ups here and there. My greed, my want for things, my desire for things, my anger when things don't go my way, right? Case in point, don't be in the car with me if we're stuck in traffic. I'm not the most pleasant person to be around. But of course, in my ignorance, sometimes my refusal to accept things as they truly are, right? When something doesn't go my way, I kind of kid myself that no, it must be a mistake, or it must not be true, right? But because of this, I am so grateful that the teachings of Shinran Shonin have passed down to me. I am so grateful that the teaching of the Nembutsu still stands the tests of time and gives all of us wisdom and compassion. And that is what the Nembutsu is for. It is to remind us that constant wisdom and compassion from Amida Buddha's Pure Land, from Amida Buddha's working, the tariki, the other power, the working, is happening here and now, and benefits us and eventually leads us to the Pure Land after we pass from this world. This is the teaching that the Buddha was said, to this, that appeared in this world. This is why the Buddha appeared in this world, was to give us this teaching of constant wisdom and compassion coming our way. It is obvious that we, in our modern society, we as Jodo Shinshu followers do not don the saffron robes. We do not shave our heads. Well, if you're ordained, you have to shave your head once. But we don't follow the strict vinaya, right? We consume meat. We also eat past noon, right? Many of us get married, have children. We all have our attachments. We all have our careers. We all have the things that we are constantly consumed with on a daily basis, right? You have all these appointments that you have to keep, right? How can we, as beings caught up so much in this world of samsara, in this world of constant go, 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 how do we benefit from Buddha's teaching? It is the Nembutsu path, and this is why this teaching has stood the test of time, all the way from Shinran Shonin's time, previously before Shinran Shonin's time, and to this time today. So Kakunyo Shonin and Shinran Shonin, all the Monshus, are actually constantly here to once again remind us of the preciousness of Shinran Shonin's teaching. I understand that some of us might have certain feelings about patriarchy, and I do as well. It seems somewhat like non-Buddhist that we are constantly honoring, and we are constantly almost seem like we're honoring or putting a person up on a pedestal when that doesn't seem like that doesn't seem Buddhist to me. But at the same time, the head priest, our current head priest, is the 25th direct descendant of Shinran Shonin as well. So he serves as a reminder to the preciousness of our teaching and to the wonderful person who Shinran Shonin was when he was alive. He serves as a reminder for that, and also contributes once again to the continuation of the teaching of Jodo Shinshu Buddhism. The same thing goes with the previous Monshus in the past. 2 head priests ago, this was Shonyo Shonin, the current Monshu's grandfather. We actually wear not this particular one, but we also wear a very special Gojo Gesa that is in honor of this priest, because Shonyo Shonin was instrumental in having the teachings and the priests and all these other gifts that were given to the BCA back in his time. So again, what is one of the, I think to me, the fact that we are all here, that this temple still stands, that we are all embraced by this teaching, speaks for itself. The fact that we are all here listening to the words of Shinran Shonin, saying Namo Amida Butsu together, I think this is very evident that this teaching will continue to stand the test of time, because it is not only practical, but it is also hopeful. Right? It's not this doomsday thing that's going to happen at the end of our life. It's this wonderful, beautiful thing, this wonderful pure land that we are born into after we pass from this world, when we reach the stage of true enlightenment. So I would like to thank you all for attending today. I think it was very fortuitous that not only did we get some sunshine during our service, but that we are also having our Sunday service on the 23rd of the month. So let's see. So I'm going to look through my calendar. I'm going to see what are the numbers again?
14, 16, 23, 27.
So next month or the months to follow, I'm going to see if any of those calendar dates fall on a Sunday service, and then I'm going to be talking about which Monshu are we celebrating this time, right? So I really hope you all enjoyed chanting Shoshinge with me today. I know that Shinran Shonin is very happy that we are continuing to chant these very important words. So in closing, would you please join me in Gasho? It is indeed the right exposition for which the Tathagata appeared in the world, the wondrous scripture, rare and most excellent, the conclusive and ultimate exposition of the one vehicle, the precious words disclosing perfect, instantaneous fulfillment, the sincere words praised by all the Buddhas throughout the 10 quarters, the true teaching in consummate readiness for the beings of this day. Let this be known. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namandabs, namandabs, namandabs.